It is today. This is a meeting that they're supposed to be holding on Wednesday. So this is today. Whatever the outcome of today's meeting, it might filter into what the finance minister will tell us tomorrow. So there's the few things that we are looking forward to. The big headliners are obviously a review in some taxes as far as petroleum is concerned that the finance minister, is expected to announce tomorrow. A $2 billion injection to save the city. The 30% cut in appointees' salaries. There's a suggestion today that with government taking a pay cut, the MP should do same. We'll hear from some of the MPs shortly, but I wanted to quickly listen to the MPP MP for Yendi. That's Aliu Mahama, who has been speaking about this, confirming that his own expectations too, that the $2 billion injection would happen and will be announced by the finance minister tomorrow.
It's not only Ghana that has these issues. We haven't come out from COVID situations, putting up measures, and having had a president who is a listening president and a president who also understands the crowd of Ghanaians. And I think the president has taken a good direction by making sure that he sends his cabinet to a retreat. And I think out of the retreat, the information minister reiterated the need for president and the measures the president has put in place. And some of the snippets of information we have gotten is even the opening of the borders and also trying to inject. If you look at the way the city compared to the dollar is going, it is rising. But the president is injecting, I think, $2 billion into the system. And I think tomorrow the president is also making sure that the finance minister comes out, because it's a government that is a listening government, and the president is not a president that is a dictator. He also forced the crowd of ordinary Ghanaian, and I think that is why the president has engaged stakeholders and also made the finance minister to prepare himself for tomorrow's engagement and also meet parliament, whereby the parliamentarians and all representatives of all the people to understand that the president is a concerned president, is trying to make sure he burdens the surface of the Ghanaian. The president was not elected to put suffering into Ghana. The president is putting into measures, and these are the measures of injecting money, opening the doors, and even his appointees himself.
You had the Farouk Aliu Mahama. Of course, he is the Member of Parliament for Yendi. And Parker, my parliamentary correspondent, joins me now. Parker, there's confidence from the NPP MPs, but that is not shared by their NDC colleagues. And you've been speaking to the ranking member on the Transport Committee in Parliament.
That is absolutely correct, Evans. The NDC is clear in their minds that what the finance minister is set to announce will not yield any positive result and deal with the situation. In fact, the conversation of the proposal about MPs slashing their salary has been kicked against by the minority. They believe the expenditure should rather come from the top and not Parliament. We can listen to Conrad Buta.
For instance, I heard, for instance, my good friend, Honorable Ponkruma, suggesting that as part of the measures, he is suggesting that voluntarily MPs also should consider taking a pay cut.
Right.
That is very deceptive. The time President Mahama made that decision that people working with him should contribute money to build cheap compound, he didn't extend that request to Parliament. In any case, if you check this house, majority of MPP MPs are on boards. So they draw other remunerations from boards and other things. NDC MPs are not on any board. Mm. So even if they let go all their salary, they may be able to find money elsewhere. So I don't think it's a reasonable thing to do.
And that is a rejection there of this suggestion that once the government is cutting salaries for appointees, then the MPs must do same. And Parker, it appears he's not the only person rejecting this suggestion that the MPs must take a pay cut.
Yes, the South Dye MP, Roxanne Nelson Dafemeko, is also of the view that should not be the way to go. In fact, he raised concerns about the top-bottom approach in terms of government going for their cabinet retreat and now coming to consult Ghanaians or stakeholders. He even believes that stakeholder consultation hasn't been done. So he challenged them to show proof of that stakeholder consultation.
How does a government that is here to determine my conditions of service, including my salary, is asking me to slash that? This government hasn't determined my conditions of service, including how much I should earn as a member of parliament. They haven't done that. What I take as salary is actually the salary of the member of parliament for the 7th parliament. So what they are giving me is by way of an account until my condition of service as a member of the 8th parliament is determined. A government hasn't done that, and yet the same government says that I should agree to a 30% or 20% salary reduction. How is that possible? I don't know how much I'm earning. How do I agree to the percentage of reduction?
But they'll use the based on what you're earning in the 7th parliament, because that's what you're earning now.
How is that reasonable? It is not reasonable. It is not reasonable because when a government that continues to fly in a private jet asks you to reduce your salary, you will not agree.
But you agree at his latest trip.
When a government...
But you agree at his latest trip.
No,
he used a commercial flight.
What? Do you know how many times the president has traveled in 2022? And so, if out of 12 travels in 2022, the man flies to Dubai once in an
isn't that a show of good faith?
No, it is
that
not.
He's listening to your
it
concerns?
is not. It is not at all. Look, it is a conduct that deserves to be condemned. A government that is really under economic difficulties. Do you know how many people they sent to Dubai Expo last week? Do you know? Go and check the numbers.
Anything innovative that would ease the burden on London.
Except to come and talk shop. That's all. Because you see, it's also interesting that a government, and I've raised the matter and it's been reported, a government that wants to consult before they come to certain innovative economic policy decisions going forward on the economy will go and take the decision and come and descend from their high mountain of Pidwasi and come to the coastal level at Accra and come and tell us that they are now willing to come and consult. If they come and consult the critical stakeholders and the stakeholders are in a disagreement with the things they have agreed on, haven't you placed the cat before the horse? The same approach they deployed in pursuing the e-levy that has become an albatross around their neck. It's the same approach they are adopting. So this government is not learning. They ought to have held a stakeholders consultation
before the cabinet retreat
for about 3 months, gone countrywide, met all the critical groups, economic players in the country, including Parliament. Then you can ascend your Pedrazi Lodge. So for them to now say that the finance minister, and I've put my ears on the ground since they descended from the Pedrazi hills, I don't know which group they have met.
And Parker, there's also a suggestion by some minority MPs that what the finance minister must announce tomorrow is not just taking a pay cut, a 30% pay cut by government appointees, but also slashing down the size of government and removing some ministers and scrapping some ministries altogether.
And this point was made by the Member of Parliament for Boem constituency, Kofi Adams, and in his view, government would have to be more candid and transparent with the people. And if government says they are sensitive towards the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian, what they have to do is to collapse what he calls or referred to as unproductive ministry. Any MP who has been appointed to the office of the president should be dismissed.
When we were telling the president that the size of government was too much, he told us he was in a hurry. He was in a hurry to where we do not know. Today, he had tried reducing the number from 126 to, I believe, 80 something. The reduction is still not enough. That 126 is what has created a bigger hole. And that hole is there and is difficult to fill today. If he had listened to us then and had not appointed 126 ministers, the hole may have been there, but it would not have been as deep as it is. Still, there's still room to reduce and make some ministries.
Well, you want him to reduce some of the ministries?
Of course, he has to. He has to reduce.
Is that what you're expecting from the government tomorrow?
Of course, we expect huge cost cutting. And it must start from such areas where you have appointees who have no rule, no productive role. Everybody who has been appointed who is not playing any productive role must go. First,
So which ministries are unproductive to the Ghanaian economy?
The president, you cannot have staffers and still have ministers of state. You cannot have staffers and
You
still
should
have
dissolve the ministers of state at the office of the
At the
president.
office of the president, they must go.
And Parker, very finally, clarify for me this national address by the finance minister. Is it before Parliament or after Parliament? Because we've seen a flyer advertising a press conference, but he may also have some duties on the floor tomorrow. What are we learning about this?
Evans, if you come to Parliament and look at the program or what's been scheduled to be done tomorrow, the day tomorrow has been dedicated to the finance minister. I must say perhaps that this year he will be the minister to answer more questions in one day. Tomorrow, the minister is expected to answer 12 questions from 12 different MPs, from NPP side and NDC side. And these questions are very crucial. In fact, let me just run it through just a few of them. One is to ask the minister what they are doing whether the government is going to return to the IMF or not. This is something that is very crucial, and many people have talked about that. Looking at where we are at the moment, it is prudent for us to go to IMF. So the minister would have to give answers as to whether there are plans for us to return to IMF or not. There's another question by Dr. Stephen Amwam asking the minister what he's going to do to reduce the debt stock, which stood at 76.1%. Again, the minority has raised concerns about borrowing, which has brought us where we are today. So the minister is expected to answer some questions there. So my sources within the majority caucus tell me that, yes, indeed, he is there to brief the MP on some of these questions. After that, the minister will pray the House to grant him just some few minutes to make statements, some of the measures adopted by government to ease the burden on the ordinary Ghanaian before he proceeds to conduct the press conference that we have seen. So there's a possibility, or we know, that he might want to give us a few highlights of what he intends to do going forward into the press conference. Then at the press conference, he might elaborate more on some of the plans he shared with the members of parliament when he appears before them tomorrow.
Interesting. Parker, thank you very much. Let's get some reactions to see what we are now learning are some of the measures that the finance minister will be outlining tomorrow. A few of them we've told you at the beginning of Top Story, a 30% cut in salaries of government appointees, a $2 billion injection to save the city, a reduction in some taxes on petroleum products, or expected to be announced tomorrow. I want to bring in Professor of Economics, Professor Lord Mensah, who will join us very shortly. But I want to bring in the minority spokesperson on finance, a former deputy finance minister himself, and a ranking on the finance committee in Parliament. Once these measures are announced, possibly some of them may come before his committee for consideration before implementation. So it's good to hear his thoughts on them. Thank you very much, Dr. Kesela Forsing. And so we saw today some of the measures on the presidency and the Jubilee House social media accounts confirming some of the things that we expect tomorrow. Let's start with the lowest hanging fruits there, which is the 30% cut in government salaries. We're hearing today from some government sources that they are pushing that the MPs in Parliament must also follow suit with your own cuts in your own salaries to show your own commitment to saving the economy. What's your reaction to that? Is that enough?
Evans, good evening. To start with, let me say that if what has been advertised by the government to all of us to see is the policies that they are touting, then indeed we are in for a big, big trouble. Evans, I say this because what I have seen is woefully inadequate in the sense that the magnitude of the problems that we face as a country, what we are seeing there cannot and will not be able to solve the problems that we are in. The 30% pay cut, the so-called 30% pay cut, for me is nothing but cosmetic. The elephant in the room is not just a 30% pay cut for government appointees. In fact, It is now time for us to cut almost 1,000 workers at the office of the president. Almost 1,000 workers, all of whom are Article 71 office holders. It is now time. It is now time for us to look at ministries, departments, and agencies, those that are subvented agencies, and for us to find out whether there is the need for them to even exist or not. Is it not time for us to merge some of the agencies or ministries together? These are broader questions. But for me, the major concern that we should ask the minister responsible for finance tomorrow, and I still insist that that press conference he is going to give is needless. What he needs to do is to appear before Parliament with an elaborate statement for us to be given opportunity as the people's representatives to scrutinize them. And that is the time that we will ask the needed questions. For example, we want him to cost for all of us so that we will be able to know the savings by quantifying them, savings that we'll be making as a result of the pay cut. We want to know at this time, is he still going on a borrowing spree for the purposes of financing frivolous expenditure? By this time, I expect the minister responsible for finance to communicate to all of us a freeze on new contracts, a freeze on new loans, a freeze on most of this flagship project that they are talking about. That is what I expect from the Minister of
What
Finance.
about the $2 billion dollar injection to save the city?
Evans, unfortunately, it is one thing that I'm so worried about. I'm worried about in the first place because, one, I want to find out who is borrowing that money. Is it the government of Ghana borrowing? And for what purpose? Remember, we are where we are because of the debt. The public debt is going up and up and up. 2 billion Ghana cedis is about 15 billion
$2 billion.
$2 billion is about 15 billion Ghana cedis. Already going to add to our public debt, which is around 83% of our GDP. So it will not solve the problem. Who is borrowing? Is it the central bank? And if it's the Bank of Ghana that is borrowing the 2 billion, are they in position, the central bank, to guarantee the 2 billion? Because I do not think so, in the sense that the Bank of Ghana do not have adequate reserves to be able to guarantee the 2 billion if they are to go and borrow.
I thought we have 4 months of import cover that we can fall on. That is in the region of $9 billion.
The import cover that you have, we don't have up to 9 billion. Someone is telling you something wrong. Our import, our reserves, as I've seen, even the gross, is around 5 billion. Of this 5 billion, about 60-70% are already encumbered. So the central bank cannot go ahead to borrow additional amount because as we speak, every single borrowing the central bank will have to make, they have to guarantee whoever that they are borrowing the money from, that at any point in time when that debt matures, they are going to be able to pay in forex. So the central bank will not be in a position to borrow that. And that is the broader question we need to ask. Because honestly, tomorrow is an important day. Just like the central bank decided to be bold and take a bold decision, I expect the fiscal authorities, the minister responsible for finance in particular, to be bold and answer us as it is and be able to propose measures that will solve the problem. I do not expect any cosmetic approach to resolve the problem. It will only deepen it and it will send the country back into the ditch.
Let me bring in Professor Lord Mensah very quickly into the conversation. Prof, so we've seen the as advertised by the presidents in the Jubilee on their handles, what to expect tomorrow. 30% cut salaries, $2 billion injection. Your quick reaction to those?
Yeah, I mean, it is an attempt, Evans. It's an attempt, but as to whether it's going to make the necessary impact that we need. Let's start with the 30% cut. Now, if you look at the Office of the President machinery, there is about 3 billion allocation to this Office of Government machinery. So let's assume that we're looking at 30% down of this expenditure. Then possibly we may be able to save around 1 billion, or let's say close to 1 billion in this. Now, with this 1 billion, I don't think it will make any changes. But then a structure was assumed, which the structure has cost the state. I'm talking about a structure of the ministerial space that we had, which in the end it has cost, the state. And you could see that most of these bank structures, their functions are not making impact. So one of the measures I was thinking about is for the minister, the president to come out to tell Ghanaians that these are ministries we added on, and now it has been assumed under the presidency. But I think the substantive ministries can take them. So a typical example like the Zongo ministry, Zongo initiative, and all those that we have them under office of the president. This can go into Ministry for Local Government, budget, for which in the end we may not necessarily have to add on to that ministry's budget. But then there are some key things that can be provided. And then the excessive appointment that has been made. You go around the country and you receive a lot of complimentary cards from people, and all that they tell you, office of the president. They're all working at the office of the president. They're all a payroll. So you ask yourself whether they are producing to be on the payroll. Apart from that, let's look at the $2 billion that the finance minister is going to announce for bringing in, for stabilizing the dollar. Well, we are used to this, but we should understand that the first cycle trajectory that we've been having in the past, this particular year's one, is not normal. The reason why it's not normal is that government doesn't have access to, external inflows of dollars as far as the euro bond market is concerned, as far as other indicators on the foreign market is concerned. So effectively, there's a toll on the economy. The government has obligations to satisfy. Apart from the regular cycles that we have, that businesses are repatriating back to their owners, which they will demand dollars. This time around, our own government is also in need of dollars to satisfy its dollar debt obligations. And so therefore, there's pressure. And Ghana don't print dollars. So if we don't print dollars and the government is in need of dollars, there will be a struggle. So I foresee the $2 billion coming in, and even the $2 billion, how they are going to inject it, for me, will play a major role. I would have advised that to pump it into the forward market. So in a way to give assurance to those who will be in need of the dollar for the next 6 months that at least we have the dollars. So if you are in need of it, you can hedge it, and then in future you buy it at a particular price.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we heard a suggestion similar to that from the central bank governor when he addressed a press conference recently that they're giving some targeted support to the BDCs, for example, for the purposes of importing products onto the market. But Prof, thank you very much for your intervention. Thank you, Dr. Kesela Tuforsing, as we wait to hear the details of what we now been given snippets of from the finance minister tomorrow. Professor Lord Mensah there and Kesela Tuforsing speaking to us on what to expect. Well, what are your own expectations ahead of the finance minister's address tomorrow? And from what you've heard so far, as what we're anticipating he will be saying, does it give you any confidence going into tomorrow? I want to hear from you. 055 11 11 997 News.